Well, good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, Building Your FM Strategy Around Customer Service. And our speaker today is Stormy Friday. We're thrilled to have her. We'll begin our webinar shortly, but before we do, I'd like to go over a few technical notes. First, this session will be recorded. Everyone in attendance will receive an email within 5 days with both a link to the recorded session and access to an electronic version of the slides. Second, throughout the event, we'll include a live question and answer session. We'll address those questions at the end of the content, but to submit those questions throughout the session, please type them into the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and be sure to send your questions to all panelists. We'll be answering as many questions as time permits. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to first introduce myself and our presenter today. First, I'm Randy Olson. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at the Professional Facility Management Institute. And our ProFM Credential is, we're sponsoring the event today. We're thrilled to do so. But it was really designed to elevate the knowledge and skills of facility professionals around the world, which this customer service topic that Stormy is going to get into is an important part of that. So we're thrilled to be your sponsor for this event. And very happy, very honored to welcome Stormy Friday to our session today and be our main presenter for this topic. Good friend of us and has helped us really shape the quality and the direction of our program. But Stormy is recognized around the world as an expert in facility management and literally wrote the textbook on today's topic. You may know that textbook, Quality Facility Management, a Marketing and Customer Service Approach. Among her numerous achievements, Stormy is the founder and president of the Friday Group, an international FM consulting firm, and is chair of the ProFMI Commission. Welcome, Stormy, and I'll turn the rest of the presentation off to you. So with that, I'm going to give Stormy the floor, and we will go from there. And as a reminder, remember to type those questions in, and we'll address as many as possible at the end of the session. So, Stormy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Randy, and I'm delighted to be here. Some of you who know me know that this topic is near and dear to my heart, and I love talking about it, and particularly now when it's important for us to reassess whether or not customer service is really all that valuable in facility management. And the reason I say that is because we find that FM leaders are constantly asking the question. When I wrote the book many, many years ago, customer service was a hot topic. And now the issue becomes, is customer service still valuable? And the answer, of course, is yes, but we need to talk a little bit and present a framework for why there is a little bit of a debate over it. First of all, there have been some changes in terms of critical success factors. You know, it used to be in the old days that if you had high customer satisfaction scores in your FM organization, you were pretty much golden to your senior executives in your enterprise. And that isn't the case anymore. Now we have new metrics. We have to look at maintenance costs. We have to look at reliability costs. We have to look at maintenance hours per work order. We have to look at energy costs. And so customer service has fallen a little bit to the wayside and not as high on the list as it used to be. We also have a much, much different workforce. Interestingly enough, and this is probably no surprise, generational workers prefer what we call non-legacy interaction. They don't necessarily want to talk to somebody. They aren't interested in customer service the way we all learned about customer service. They want their interaction mostly through technology. And all you have to do is sit in an airport for a little while, sit on a public transportation vehicle, and you'll see nobody's talking to one another. They're all communicating on their phones. And so that's how most younger folks get what they call customer service. And they don't even have the same definition of customer service that most of us had. The final thing that's a little disturbing is that our workforce has changed so dramatically from what we have been able to diagnose when we do focus groups and talk to people, is that, in fact, people are paying lip service to customer service. They don't really trust customer service anymore, and so when someone says they have a very high customer-oriented, high customer-focused organization, people don't believe it as much as they used to. And so we need to reevaluate how we deal with the whole topic of customer service. I have one interesting story to tell you if you don't believe that technology has overtaken us with respect to customer service, and that is the company Goodyear from Goodyear Tires did a survey when they presented people with new vehicles that had dashboard lights to tell them when their tires needed inflating. And those of you who are accustomed with that little insignia on your dashboard, you know to look and determine whether or not your tires need inflating. Well, the younger generations had no clue what to look for on the dashboard. But as soon as they put an emoji on there, everyone understood what that meant. So we have to work around what's happening in the workforce today and the fact that technology has overtaken us, and it also has changed the way we look at customer service. On the other hand, if we understand what makes customer service valuable, we can work around that and make sure that it adds the kind of significance and the kind of value we need to make our FM organization successful. The first one is that we have to really know what the customer perspective is. Many of you know that customers have wants and customers have needs. And most of the time they think their wants are what we should be responding to in our environment. And yet it's really not what we have to help them with. We need to help them make sure that they are able to achieve their business goals and their business mission within the context of the work environment that we provide. And yet customers are our priority. So many times FM organizations are not fully conversant with the fact that if you don't have customers, you aren't going to have an FM organization eventually. And we also need to realize that customers think we are experts on everything. If you've sat in an FM organization long enough and listened to some of the phone calls that come in, people call us about everything, things that we have nothing to do with, and yet they expect us to be able to direct them to the right place. And so it's important for us to take responsibility for customer service because our customers expect us to do that. They want us to be able to point them in the right direction, even if it's something that we don't do in our FM organization. We also need to know the difference between customer service and customer success. And by customer success, here's a good example. Perhaps you stroll into a restroom and there's a customer in there and they say, oh, guess what, we're out of paper towels. And you say, well, I will make sure that I tell the custodial staff. And the customer may leave thinking, okay, that was pretty good customer service, but they didn't have customer success. If you say, I can make a call right now on my cell phone or as soon as I get back to my office and have that paper towel dispenser filled, the customer leaves thinking that, in fact, they were successful in getting what they needed taken care of and that you, in fact, as a representative of the FM organization, really helped them to achieve success. The final thing that I think is important in terms of value for customer service is the fact that there's a new term of art. It's now called customer hospitality. And we need to think about that more than the term customer satisfaction. There's a fellow who talks a lot about customer service and does training and writes books, and his name is Jim Sullivan, and he said there's a distinct difference. Customer service fulfills a need that a customer might have, but the term hospitality fulfills the people who have that need. And that's what we want to make sure that we do. We want to make sure that customers leave feeling that they've had a successful interaction with folks in the FM organization. And we have been a good problem solver for them and have been able to help them achieve success. When you try to determine what customer expectations are, it really starts at the top of the FM organization. Part of what I wrote years ago, and I still believe in it truly, is that the key to facility management and good customer service is it's management by walking around. You will never know your customers and never know what their needs are if you sit in an office all day long. And so strolling the halls, visiting the restrooms, going to the cafeterias, going to areas where you as an FM organization are responsible for creating the environment that the workforce has to be in is critical all the time. And so the senior executive in a facilities management organization sets the tone. It's important at that senior level to make sure that all staff in the FM organization are aware that key performance indicators are part of their personal performance expectations. And so if customer service metrics are not written into professional goals and metrics, then individuals will not feel that that's as important to senior management as it might be to the staff. So that's really critical. And we have to remember, too, when we are putting customer service KPIs, key performance indicators, into those performance goals, that we include our external service providers. Transparency is a big key in customer service, and so we need to make sure that our external service providers, our partners, also understand how important customer service is and that they are being evaluated on how well they perform that. We also need to think about touch points, and a touch point in customer service is any time a customer interacts with you, whether it's when they're on the phone with you, whether they meet you in the hall, whether they see you at a social function related to your enterprise, whether they've submitted a work order. Any time that they interact with the facilities organization, that's a touch point. And so we need to make sure that we identify those for folks who are doing the work so they know when they have an interaction with a customer, a touch point, that the response is one that will allow customers to feel that they have achieved good success, that in fact it is hospitality rather than just customer service. And another thing that we have gotten away from in our FM organizations, and it makes me sad, and I'm hoping all of you out there listening will reinstate this, is customer service training. In the old days, everyone in facility organizations was trained. They were trained to know it's my job. Whether you are at the help desk answering the phone or taking a work order, if you're an evening custodian, you are responsible for part of that customer satisfaction, that customer success experience. And so it's very important to make sure that we have good training for customer satisfaction and customer service. It's funny, but perhaps it isn't because we're all guilty of it now. It's important for us to find that our service is convenient for customers. Think about it, and perhaps the greatest example I can use is the whole food service industry. You know, we get meals now from companies like Blue Apron and HelloFresh. They deliver food to your door. If you're in an office during lunchtime, if you don't have time to go out or don't feel like going out, you can get Grubhub or you can get Uber Eats. And now I've been reading that in 4 states, Walmart will even deliver groceries to your door, unlock your door, go in and put them in your refrigerator. If we have that kind of convenience in our everyday lives, it goes and it stands to reason that our customers would feel they should be getting that from a facilities organization. And so it's very important for us to identify how we can make it easier for them to do business with us. How do they access our service? If we have a website where they can go in and submit a work order, and it's 5 easy pieces, and you click on 5 little things, and all of a sudden the work order is submitted, that's convenient. If they have to go through 42 steps and 82 pages just to submit a work order, people aren't going to do that because you know what they'll do. They'll call people that they know because it's convenient, and they don't have to work on it too much. So that's very important, and that probably when we do focus groups with customers of our FM organizations is the number one issue that customers have. Make it easy for me to access the service. I do not want to have to go through a lot of steps in order to fill out a form, to identify a work order problem. I'd rather call somebody I know because I know they will take care of it. And also, it's important to understand how customers can communicate problems. Do you have a very easy line for them to be able to make a phone call, right at the bottom of a work order, access your website to identify when they have problems. What do they do? Who do they contact? Have you communicated that? Have you made it easy for them to get back to you when you're having a problem? And finally, you need to make sure that you get feedback from your customers. And we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of that. But remember, customers always have good suggestions because they're the ones whose lives are impacted by what we perform and how we perform and the work that we do for them every day. So it's important to remember that we need to make sure that we have a vehicle for our customers to input suggestions. When it comes to convenience, the statistics now say that 70% of customers in almost every venue would rather worry about the convenience factor than they would about the cost of a service. So it's extremely important for us to be paying attention to how we make our services easy and convenient for our customers. We also need to make sure that we establish branding and marketing for our FM organization. Remember, we need to market all the time. And even if we have websites, even if we have pieces of information, even if we do other things, our job is to make sure that we're constantly reinforcing our value proposition. What are we known for in our FM organization? Are we known for having fast service? Are we known for being on time and on budget with the projects that we deliver for our customers? Are we known for being first time, right time, every time? And that means a low margin of errors when we perform work. What is our value proposition? How do we add value to our customer organizations? And then how do we differentiate ourselves? And I love service providers. They are wonderful strategic partners, and I hope there are some out in our audience. But on the one hand, we want them to be strategic partners when we need them. On the other hand, there may be times when customers say, because they are used to doing things in their houses, oh, I can go out and get someone to do that a lot faster and a lot less expensively than my FM organization is delivering. I just heard that last week at a customer site. And they were saying, yes, we know how to do this. Why don't they just let us go out and get things on our own? And so we need to make sure that we differentiate ourselves from others because we need to add value. We know we add value, and we know how to do things the right way. We just aren't very good at marketing and branding ourselves to do that. And we have to create some opportunities to showcase our success. We have to do lunch and learns so that we invite people to come to sessions where we tell them what we do and how we do it. We need to have some dog and pony shows with senior executives so that they are fully aware of what we've done for them, and so we also can be able to anticipate what they might be needing from us in the future. Clearly, we need to be using social media, and however your enterprise allows you to do it, you need to make sure that you're doing that. We need to have some traditional media as well, and that means things like annual reports, emails to people when it's important, all-hands bulletins. In some organizations, they do closed-circuit TV announcements, things like that to make sure we get to our audience. And then also, we need to make sure that we showcase our successes within the FM industry. If you're good and you have something that you do very well, you want to make sure that everybody knows how well you are doing it. So that's an important aspect of adding value in customer service. And then it's important, as I said, to gather feedback from your customers. Periodically, you need to be able to do surveys. You want them to talk back to you. And I have heard for too many years FM organizations say, well, no news is good news. No news is just no news. And people have a tendency to tell bad stories. Something like 80% of our FM customers will tell somebody when the service was poor rather than when the service is good. So you need to hear that before they're telling everybody else in your enterprise. I'm a big fan of focus groups. We do those with our clients and their customers, and we believe that it's important for FM organizations to do them periodically. maybe once a year, maybe every 6 months. You get groups of your customers, and whether they're administrative assistants or whether they're professors or whether they're scientists or technicians in other components of your enterprise, get them together and get their feedback. It's also important to have a component on your work orders where they can provide feedback. You need just a little snippet of information on every work order. You want your customers to be able to write some testimonials, so you can include those on your website. It's very good marketing so that others can do the marketing for you. You also want to make sure that you get good reports from your external service providers so that you know how well they are performing and your customers know how well they are performing as well. And then you also need to do benchmarks with your peers in the FM industry. You want to know that you are providing superior customer service or customer hospitality in this day and age, and so it's important. Then you need to make sure you use this data. There's nothing worse than a facilities organization that goes out and surveys its customers, does focus groups, gets reports back from their service providers, and also uses information from work orders at the bottom, and then they don't do anything with it. And your customers have valuable time, just the way we do in our facilities departments. Customers' time is valuable, so don't waste it. Make sure if you do something with the data and the information that you promote it and that people know it. And measurement is no good to you unless you have a means to use it. And so make sure that you incorporate what you find into your annual reports, and you write them and you publish them on your website. Customer reports, you go each year and you meet at the beginning of the fiscal year with your customers and you tell them, you develop a customer profile of what you have done for them over the course of the year and how well you have performed and helped them. You also need to incorporate the findings into staff performance so they know, particularly when they have KPI, they understand completely that you are looking at the feedback that you get on how well they're performing, and you're incorporating that in their goals and then your expectations and objectives for improvement in their individual development plans. And then also with your external service providers, when you get feedback on how well they are doing from customers, you can use that in your external service provider negotiations. If there's a need to improve how well they deliver, let's say, in the help desk, if they are staffing your help desk and they need to return calls faster or they need to turn around work orders faster, you need to make sure that's involved in your negotiations with your external service providers. And then the final one is always something that I think is terrific for our FM organizations to strive to do, and that is to become the standard bearer within the enterprise, within your overall company, your overall environment, to be the best you possibly can. You create the bar for customer service. You create the bar to be the best. You create the bar so others will follow. Over the years, we've had a number of facility organizations that have just done that, and it's remarkable internally within their companies when they, in fact, have created that standard for exemplary customer service and now hospitality, customer hospitality. And they are known throughout the enterprise as problem solvers, and they are known as the best. All of a sudden, other departments have to make sure that the service they're delivering can also match what you do. So it's one of the most important things you can do in your goal to add value through customer service. So how do you get to do some of this? Well, there are lots and lots of tools out there, and we've only presented a few of these things for you. But there's lots of things you can learn on Facilities.net. There are articles written, great things about customer service. You can always go back through and look at the book that was written so long ago. Nobody's ever tackled that topic since Dave Kotz and I wrote about customer service. And then the one that I find absolutely fabulous for everyone nowadays is you can learn a lot about customer service and how it feeds into the body of knowledge that we need to have in our facilities world today by the ProFM Credential program. And so I would encourage you to look for all of these things, do all of this, and don't be afraid of customer service. Just make sure that you step up and start doing it, because once you do, it becomes easier. And once you do, you will find that having that feedback, having that data, having those metrics, having that relationship with your customers adds to your overall success in the eyes not only of your customers that you deal with every day, but also in the eyes of your senior executives. So, Randy, I'm hoping that we have some questions out there.
Yeah, thank you, Stormy. We are getting a number of good questions, and just as a reminder, if you type those into the screen on the right-hand side, we'll address as many as we can. So I'm gonna serve up a couple here to you. First one is really related to time. So how do you make time for customer service and marketing when there isn't time to get all my FM tasks done in the day?
That's a good question, and we get asked that all the time. And I say customer service is not a luxury, it's a necessity. You have to carve out time. Just the way when you're trying to manage your calendar that you have to carve out time to respond to those pesky emails or those text messages that you get, you have to carve out time for customer service, and you have to make it part of your daily routine. Customer service is a cultural thing for FM organizations, and it needs to be inculcated into the culture of the organization. So you have to carve out time to do it. And once you do, it becomes part of the way of life and part of the culture of the FM organization.
Yeah, somewhat related question. Is it necessary for FM branding with the local employees or customer when the customer can experience on the ground, when the customer can experience on the ground? So is it necessary for branding with the local employees, local customer, when you have day-to-day interaction with them?
Oh, it's absolutely necessary because they forget. They forget who we are and what we do for them. They have to be reminded. And just like an elephant, as I said before, customers have long memories about things we don't do well. And that's what you don't want to happen. And interestingly enough, customers are forgiving if you give them information. So the more information and the more feedback you give them, the more you brand yourself with those folks who are dealing with you every day, the more forgiving they will be over the long haul. So maybe you mess up on something one day, but you do a really good job with a big thing. They will remember how well you worked with the big thing if, in fact, you remind them of them often. So it is important. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about customers at a local level in a campus environment as well as customers who are out in other geographic areas. It's a constant process.
Okay, great. And I think this is a question that probably came to a lot of minds. How do you address the group of customers, say 15% or so, who are always not satisfied and always complaining no matter how much you take care of them?
I've been waiting for that question. Customers may not always be right, but they're always the customer. And you can never satisfy everyone. And I'd be the first to say that. I kind of lead off customer service training by saying that. You can't satisfy everyone. But what you need to do is you need to make the customers who complain the loudest and the hardest part of the solution. Those are the people that I always want to invite to a focus group. The nastiest, ugliest customers are the ones that you need to make sure that they are invested in the success of your customer service program. And so invite them to come and talk to you. Invite them into a focus group. Listen to them whine and moan and groan for a while, and then ask them for their solutions. Create a task force with customers who are having a problem with maybe a process or a policy or something you're doing. Ask them if they would be willing to be involved in a task force with some of your own staff to solve that. If you've got a process that's too long or a policy that isn't working anymore, ask them to help you be part of the solution. That way they have an investment because it helps them and it's also helping you. And we know we can never satisfy everyone, so we need to be able to satisfy the majority, and we also need to make sure that we kind of coddle those people who can be a pain in the neck.
Great. The next one is related to budget. So how do you balance providing successful customer service experiences with an underfunded budget? How do you tell a customer, I'd love to get that repair done, but I don't have the funding to cover it?
Well, part of that, and the way that we usually counsel facility organizations to get around that a little bit, is you make sure you have service level agreements with your customer organization. Remember, there are priorities and then there are priorities. And so while you may have an underfunded budget, if in fact you are able to convince your client population that they could be better served if your budget were increased over the long haul, sometimes those folks can help you by marketing to their senior people who market then to their senior people who market to your senior people. And so up front, you probably initially have to make them involved in part of that decision. I'd love to be able to do this for you, but we have a piece of equipment that, we're doing run to failure on that piece of equipment, and I need to have justification in order to be able to convince my senior management that we need to spend some money on it. Can you help me with that? Can you help me identify why, in fact, that's so critical to you and your mission in your particular organization? So you want to get customers to help you. That's the real key. You want to get them to help you market. You want to get them to help you be able to justify why things in the budget need to be in there, and you want to get them to carry the message forward for you so that you don't have to have that burden all by yourself.
Great. So I know we're getting short of time, Stormy, but let's take a couple more. There's a couple more really good questions, and the first one is, can you give me some more examples of KPIs for measuring customer services in FM?
Sure. A KPI might be, and we can go through a couple of categories here. A lot of KPI are done for people who are at the help desk, for example, and so KPI can be length of time people have to wait on a call before you pick up the phone to ask what their problem is, or length of time before you respond to a submission of a work order to tell them that, in fact, you know what the problem is, and here's how long it may take you so that you can come out and assess the problem. And so you have KPIs at those key junctures so that customers know at every step along the way what you're going to be doing for them. KPI, for example, and here's a good example of turning a bad situation into a good one. If you have had a bad experience with a move and you have had to move a component of an organization into a new facility or new space and it didn't go well, you sit down and identify what KPI are critical, what steps have to be taken at what junctures, and then you create your timelines and you incorporate those timelines into KPIs for individuals who may be project managers or who may be in charge of certain moves. You have KPIs for your project managers for large customer design and construction projects, how often they meet with the customer, how progress meetings are handled, how well the project goes in terms of on time, on budget, and then finally KPI for lessons learned. What lessons have we learned from this project that can then be applied to our next project? So what you really need to do is to go through every component of your FM organization and identify what are the critical key performance indicators for each of the folks who are in that organization. And then you have to have one for the organization overall. How do we become a continuous learning FM organization, and what are our key metrics to make sure that we're moving along that continuum?
All right, great. Well, let's take one more. And Stormy, before we do that, if you could just move the slide ahead one that'll provide them our contact info, that would be great. And the last question we have then is, I have no training in customer service, communications, and marketing, so this seems overwhelming. Are there quick and easy first steps I can do without help from other resources?
Yes. Of course, I'm going to direct you to ProFM because I think you can learn an awful lot in that, but I appreciate the fact that somebody may be having difficulty with getting some of those resources. And so until you're able to do that, or until you're able to read articles on customer service through FacilitiesNet, the most important thing is to establish a little time where you can learn what your customers are thinking. And one of the best ways to do that, as you heard me say earlier, is walking around. Just pop into customers' offices and say, I'm just in the neighborhood. I'd like to spend 5 minutes with you and learn how well we're doing, or where you might have some problems or issues or concerns. Or I'd like to know what you've got on your plate for the future so that we can do a better job planning our service to help you. That doesn't take much in terms of a resource. It's time, but if you manage your time well, it is time well spent at the other end, because then you've got a connection with customers. And you do a couple of customers a day, and pretty soon you've got a great customer network and a great customer relationship.
All right, very good. Stormy, thank you so much for the presentation and the great content. Thank you to all our participants for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you joining in. I hope you found value in the content. I'm quite sure you did. And on this screen, you'll find, as a wrap-up here, contact information for Stormy and contact information for me. And then last, the website www.profmi.org is a great resource to learn more about the industry and the program. So with that, I'm going to wish you a good rest of your Tuesday. And again, if you want to reach out to us, our contact info is here. Have a great day. Thank you so much.